Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Very Connected podcast. And we are preparing for Halloween. Yes, we are, aren't we, Rick?
Yeah,
We are,
absolutely.
we started planning this months and months ago, and Rick graciously decided to have a Halloween theme. It's because we have Halloween that's coming up tomorrow. And so our topic is Journey Through the Dark Forest, Navigating Weight Loss. And kind of tell you a little bit about this event. Rick's going to be adding some fun. He's going to be sharing his own life experiences, challenges, and achievements. And Rick, you've probably been on our podcast now, I'm going to say 4 or 5 times.
Sounds all
And
right.
each
Yeah.
time, it has it been?
Yeah. Yeah.
And each time I feel like you build on it and you always are so engaging. Everybody just loves you. And so I always want to have you back. And today you're going to be kind of navigating through this dark forest where it's going to be spooky and you're going to have kind of a maze of monsters. And each monster is going to depict a highlight or portion of Rick's own journey. So Rick he is a bariatric surgery patient. He had weight loss surgery back in September of 2019 and has successfully lost over 225 pounds. Oh my goodness. You
It's
also
220
have a
pounds.
business
200.
background.
Yeah.
What's this?
Sorry.
No, I
Um,
mean, you know what? Let's just kind of, you have a business background too.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to downplay that because you have so many good aspects of you train teams, you train people in the business setting. And so I feel like you're able to incorporate a lot of that into what you're teaching too as well. So
And sometimes I teach at a college. I teach organizational psychology and industrial psychology. So that's a lot of fun too. But what I really like to do is treat this subject matter and almost relate it to business practices and processes because ultimately I really do think that our body is our business, and it's a mindset that has helped me be successful through this process. Yes, I have challenges like everybody else. Brenda, I don't mean to steal your thunder either. If I used to want to talk away, you can interrupt me, all that fun stuff. Because as far as I'm concerned, we're going to do this together.
you're awesome. I do want to say one thing. The only thing I want to say is all these wonderful people that are joining us on the live event and also replay at some point. I just want to say hello to them. And Kim is here, which I believe Kim was from the program. Kim, I think maybe even recommended you, Rick. Was that
Is
correct?
that
Or am
Kim
I?
Estromera on here?
Yes, yes, she's here on our program.
Kim,
She's
you better
listening.
chat me a hello.
She said, Rick, you're the best. I don't know if you can see the chat box.
I have
So
to
I also want to say hello to everybody, but
I have
just
to
say
tell you,
shout out to Kim.
Kim is phenomenal. I was so sad when she left the hospital. So happy for her new new career path though. But she has been my rock through this whole process. I could have never ever got to where I am today without her. So thank you so much, Kim. I'm just giving you a big shout out there. Um, should I go ahead and start?
Yeah. And also, I just
Okay.
want to say, too, say hello, everybody else, as you join, because we want to know you're here. Let us know where you're
Yes.
from and any of that other stuff you want to share. Like if you're pre op, post op, if you're thinking about having surgery, we have people from all over. Okay. It's all yours, Rick. You just get her started. And
Well,
guys, don't get too scared. It's going to
well,
be a little scary here.
I don't think it'll be that bad, but it will be a lot of fun. But thanks again for that great info. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. As I was saying a few minutes ago, usually when I present, I like to relate the information to being an employee at a company because I really do believe that our bodies are our business. And I think it's a different way of thinking about the process and being mindful about everything. And it certainly has helped me find creative ways to maybe understand and keep on track in other ways. So as Brenda had shared, I was asked to share my story, but we had collectively thought it'd be fun to kind of spin it on a Halloween theme. So um, today I plan on sharing my personal journey, which I haven't done a lot. But today I'm going to be a little vulnerable. I'm going to be very honest and transparent because my personal mantra has always been own your truth. You have to own your truth through this process because if you're not honest with your truth, or if you're not honest with yourself, it's going to be so challenging to be successful. I don't care who you lie to anyone else, but just be as honest with yourself as possible. And um, so as like many of you, it's been a challenging process. It's rewarding, incredibly rewarding, but also sometimes a scary journey to get our goals and objectives and to get our final destination. And once we reach that destination, it can be additionally challenging just to sustain it all and uh, maintain that success. So here's my story with that Halloween spin. Oh, and on another note, as I go through my story, I'd love to see all of you make comments in chat or use the emotion icons through Zoom. If you've experienced what I've also been through, please give a thumbs up, applause, smiley face, sad face, etc. Why? Because it helps to validate our experiences. It shows others that we are not alone. And finally, it's just some added fun that we can enjoy the day with, right? Great. So in in the beginning, I'm guessing most successful bariatric weight loss programs require participants to achieve a specific number of goals during a period of time. Not only do medical practices require this, but in my experience, most health insurance uh, carriers do also. Now, to preface, I had previously tried to begin this bariatric process 3 times prior to my successful attempt. And why do I bring that up? Well, for most BPs, that's what I'm going to call the bariatric programs. For most BPs, it's a non-reversible process. So they want to make sure that you're developing these good habits. You're able to stay on track. You're able to meet these expectations and obligations. And one of the most saddest things I think that can happen from this, and I think we see this, is that we'll lose this weight and then we'll slowly start gaining it all back, right? And it's just coming and it's just coming back. So what are some things that we can do collectively as a team to help keep our weight down, stay healthy, live a healthy lifestyle, and keep going forward? Um, and so that's just what I'd like to share. And so back to my 3 times prior to succeeding, why did I fail? Well, what what could I have done better? What motivated me to succeed? There were just a few questions I think I continuously asked myself before that last time. And when self-reflecting, I believe the main reasons why I didn't succeed the first time were one, I just wasn't no, I can't even talk. I just wasn't mentally ready to begin this process. I really think you need to be in that positive, that structured mindset that this is what I'm going to do. This is, I'm going to meet this, be committed. And for myself, just in all honesty, having ADHD, I had to be organized. I needed that structure and I needed good tools to help me succeed. I think I just had a lack of motivation and willpower. And on some level, I understood in order for me to succeed, I needed to be able to sacrifice. I had to sacrifice food, time to plan things. I'm sad to say I was a smoker, so I had to quit that. Certainly drinking like caffeinated beverages and certainly things like alcohol and stuff like that too. And 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 I just was so frustrated about the caffeine too. I remember thinking, wait, you want me to not only cut back on my calories and all these delicious foods, but now you're taking away my morning coffee? That just did not fly with me. Um, but we understand the importance of that, right? Because we need to stay hydrated and not be dehydrated. Just as an example, and then Certainly a lack of understanding the importance of the programs, right? What the potential risks were, why specific tasks were put in place to get me to where I am today. In some ways, it was almost like emotional maturity, and so what? It took me a while to get there. I'm there, but I really would like anyone who's in the pre-op part that's struggling a little bit to maybe consider things like that. Um, and then finally, it was the lack of support. I think I needed to be in a place where I had a supportive structure, not just with family, but with friends and coworkers and colleagues. People that you see on a daily basis. If you're not supported, I like in anything, I mean, even in your job, if your supervisor doesn't support you, what tends to happen? Your performance starts to fall apart. Well, the same thing with this in any other process. If you're not supported from the top down or below up, then things will start to fall apart. And that's what had happened for me. So this time I just chose that I have reached the heaviest in my life. This was my boiling point. I mean, I needed to I needed a life-changing moment, and I think, reaching 409 pounds, to the point where I couldn't even walk up a full flight of stairs without either having to stop halfway up, and then I felt like I was almost sick, like, every other week, just chronically sick, and, I needed a change. Some other reasons, maybe, yeah, sure. I think if anyone tells you that attractiveness isn't important, personally, I think you're not being totally honest because it is a deciding factor, I think, in going through something like this. But with me, it became so difficult to find clothes that would fit me comfortably, and then when you get clothes that do fit you comfortably, you tend to pay 2, 3 times as much as what the normal individual would pay at a store. So, additionally, I was afraid to travel. I knew I couldn't fit in airplane seats, and how embarrassing would that be to be that individual that they say, "Oh, sir, you can't go on this plane unless you buy a second seat," or the seatbelt won't fit across you, so they bring you the extending seatbelt. Who wants to be put in those ridiculed situations? Just the idea of that happening to me just mortified me. Heck, I couldn't even fit in the booth at a restaurant. So I got to a point in my life that I didn't even want to leave home. I went to work and then I went home and I avoided people for the most part. I realized this is not me. It's not who I wanted to be. I wanted to enjoy life. And at 46 years old, I needed a change. I swear to God, anyone on this call, just raise your hand if you felt any part of this or experience anything like that, because I think, again, just validating that and just helping everybody understand, yes, yes, that sounds like me. That sounds like me. I think that helps us find that inner motivation to just keep going forward. And ultimately, in the end, for me, I almost felt like a ghost, and I was invisible because once I got out of work, I pretty much became a recluse. I just stayed home, and I just was embarrassed to go out in public. So here I was at 49 at 49 pounds, 409 pounds, and I had to say, "Enough." So I knew this was not going to be an easy process. I mean, I had already tried it 3 times before. So I had to assess and analyze why I failed that, and I took it upon myself almost every day that I don't have to sacrifice everything at once. Now, right now I'm talking about the process where you first started the program and now you're working with your nutritionist, your psychologist, and your medical and the surgeon's office. And I kind of told myself that every day, okay, look, I don't have to sacrifice everything at once. And in retrospect, I think that's why I failed all those diets that I've tried in the past. I know myself. If I do too much or I have too many broad goals and objectives, then I'm either going to get bored in them or psychologically it just becomes too overwhelming and very stressful, right? So I also think that I was so big that I needed a boatload of calories just to sustain my very small amount of energy that I had left. So through the process, through that pre-op process, I made myself micro goals, small targets of what I wanted to achieve either each week, each month, each quarter. I knew on some psychological level, the smaller the targets I complete, the stronger my motivation will be. And why is that important? Well, let me tell you, because motivation is an outcome. A lot of people think that you need to be motivated before you can start these things and do that. And I'm here to tell you today, folks, it's just the opposite. You have to do something in order to get the motivation. Motivation is going to spin stronger and stronger and stronger as you go on through this process. And motivation does not come first, it tends to come last, which is really ironic when you think about it in the long run. But I just want you to be mindful about that. So if you're just sitting at home waiting for something to change and waiting for that motivation to happen, it's not going to happen. You actually have to start something to spin the motivation up.
Rick,
And
can you give
frank,
us an example of that? Like, would you
yeah,
say, are you talking about like scheduling surgery or like making an appointment to go work
it,
out or
it could be so. Like, I think working out and exercise is a great thing. I mean, I have had people say things like, "You can do it. If you complete this, you'll feel amazing." Right? Those phrases aren't really that helpful. What is helpful are saying things like, "You did it. You're amazing. Look what you've accomplished so far." I have found that what helps motivate me the most is, and I'm going to kind of rely some business principles here, but we've all heard of creating the checklist, right? So we're going to develop a 10-point checklist and everything that we want to accomplish in one day. So what tends to happen at that point? Well, if you're like me, what typically happens is you're lucky if you can actually achieve one or two of those things on that checklist, right? Because we get daily interruptions coming in, we get phone calls coming in, emails coming in. We may have an issue going on that we have to focus on, or maybe one of the tasks just takes longer than we expected. So then if I have 10 things on my list and I've only achieved two, I have eight other things I haven't achieved. Well, when you look at that, on some psychological level, it's actually defeating. It feels defeating because it's like, oh my God, I didn't get all this done. Well, so your productivity and performance will literally start to drop. And what do? We want to bring that up. So I'm going to challenge everyone to try this, either through this process or even at work. Instead of creating a to-do list, I'm going to ask you to create a done list. Create a list of everything that you've achieved in that day. Whether it's you answered 20 emails, you called five people, you made five appointments, you walked um, 5,000 steps. Just keep a list of everything that you accomplished. And then at the end of the day, take that list out and look at that. Look how rewarding that is. Look how proud you should be of yourself for completing all of those tasks. So, when it comes to motivation and finding that motivation, one of the best things that can do is shift that mindset and find different ways to energize your own internal behavior, because ultimately you want to find what's intrinsically important to you. And what I mean by that is, what's spiritually meaningful, what touches your heart, what makes you happy in the inside. I mean, at workplace, when we talk about extrinsic and intrinsic, what so like is something that's extrinsic in the workplace, for example, is like getting your paycheck. Well, it's great, right? Who doesn't love to get paid? But how long does that paycheck really last? I don't know. If you're like me, you probably shop on Amazon way too much, and that paycheck is going to run out a lot quicker than you would hope, right? But so that happiness isn't sustained, because it's only sustained as long as that money's in that account. So that's what's extrinsically important. What's intrinsically important to me is that I feel valued by the employees here. The employees respect me. And when that happens, when your supervisor, for example, comes to you and says, "You're doing an amazing job with this," you feel real good about that, right? Like really good insight, like, wow. And then what tends to happen at that point? Well, let me tell you what tends to happen. And it's just a natural thing that happens with humans. We start to work a little harder, right? Because we like getting compliments like that. We like feeling valued. We like feeling important. We love when people ask us questions and we can give input to share our own experiences. Brenda, I kind of went off on way too many tangents there, but I really wanted to give a few different examples on how motivation is probably one of the more fundamental things that can help us succeed. But just to bring everything back to Brenda's initial question, I think one of the best things that you can do again is to create that done list. What have you actually accomplished in that day? And if you don't want to do it in a day, just do your done list in a week, right? Don't do a checklist on what you need to do. Do the done list on what you did and actually see at the end of the day or the week everything that you've successfully accomplished. No matter how big or small it is, like pennies in a bank, it's all going to add up. And I knew I needed, so like I am the worst procrastinator. Oh my God, I am horrible with that. I am someone that I tend to have 12, 15 balls in the air at the same time, and I'm constantly prioritizing things. And I'll put a lot of things off at the last minute, which isn't great. I did it in school, I did it in I do it at work. I do meet my deadlines, but I also understand that, you know what, if I become a little more organized and a little more structured, then I'm not going to be so overwhelmed and stressed. And it's actually stress is something that can really break or make a program like this. If you become so stressed out, what tends to happen? We get burnt out. And this, again, here we are back to the business principles. When you're burnt out at work, well, what do? We start looking for other jobs. What tends to happen with a pre-op process like this? You'll get burnt out. You'll say, this isn't working for me. I think I'll go try this other diet. I'm gonna go try the fasting thing. I'm gonna go try this keto diet. I'm gonna go try this other diet. And what tends to happen when we do that? Well, hey, I've been through almost every diet out there on the book. Um, and sure, that weight comes off, but it flies back even faster and sometimes even harder, and you end up gaining more than you actually started in the first place. So I knew that creating all these targets was going to be really, really important for me. And uh, another thing that was really helpful was journaling. It really helped me connect to myself in an honest and transparent way. Again, okay, so skip it, Brenda, right? I'm bringing work into this. But when we talk about journaling and being transparent, right? When you're at work, what are some things that we like? We like supervisors, we like leaders that tell us what's happening to the business on a financial level, on a sales level. What changes are happening in the workplace? Are there going to be layoffs? Are we struggling financially? Are we hiring new people? We need this. We need the communication. We need the transparency. If we don't have the transparency, what tends to happen is that's when people start speculating, right? Oh God, we're starting to fall apart here. What's going to happen? Oh, should I start looking for another job? These are all negative things that will play around in our mind, because when we're not giving facts on what's actually happening, we're going to start making up our own facts. And we really want to avoid things like that. So journaling helped me stay on track a little bit. It helped me with a lot of self-reflection. If I was having a really bad day eating wise, and we've all had them, heck, I still have them, right? And when we have a bad day, just going back to that journal and kind of reflecting, okay, what happened that day that really maybe made me overeat or eat something I shouldn't have? And besides the self-reflecting, I think it's I I I think it's a good way to collect data. Uh, I think it's a good way to collect data as far as identifying your successes, your failures, your achievements. All of those things are really great. And the nice thing about self-reflecting back to a journal is because you should have some really positive reinforcement in there. And that's also a motivator that can help us sustain everything and move forward and get going. So those are really, really important things to also consider. Now, one big important thing that happened to me, and Kim, I don't know if Kim's able to jump on this call, but I give her full permission to talk about this too if I were able to join her. But one big issue that happened to me that I was most proud of was a situation involving my health insurance carrier at the time. The carrier that I was with required 6 months of nutritional visits, and I had to do at least one visit with Kim each month. And I think it was the 6th month, the last month, I got sick and I couldn't attend my appointment, and then I just wasn't able to reschedule it until until the following month. And uh, Kim had pulled me in her office, and she had said, "Oh boy, guess what?" She said that the insurance carrier isn't authorizing it because I missed the month, and she said that they are requiring you to go through another 6 months of nutritional counseling. So, what are my choices here, guys? So, my choices are I give up. At this point, I've been through what I'm going to call 6 months of hell week. And I was like, I I'm so close. I'm so close. I'm approved by the psychologist. I'm approved by the medical doctor. Uh, Kim even said, if I had my way, I'd put you through. And Kim, feel free to jump on and correct me if I'm wrong. But and I think if I recall, she was also equally disappointed with this. But I had told her, I said, I ain't giving up. I did not go through this program to stop now. I am getting this done. I was never more committed in my life than to do this. And you know what? The positive thing about that too is I just kind of said to myself, okay, Health New England, you want to play this game? I'm going to watch me not give up on this. So it was almost like their negative reinforcement just motivated me to succeed even more. And I don't know, Kim, do you feel free to jump in and add anything if you'd like, or is she going to be shy? Kim's going to be shy.
She said she would jump on, but I have invited her on screen,
Yeah,
but I'm looking to
there
see
she
if
is. She's just muted. Hey, Kim.
Hi, guys.
hey.
Yeah, Rick,
Oh,
I mean, I kind of liken some of the barriers that I think happen in the pre-op process as, kind of a preview of life, right? It's not a
yeah,
linear line. And I would always say to patients, this is almost like a test, right? So
yeah,
so when things come your way, what are you going to do? Are you going to give up? Are you going to say, I can't do this? Or are we going to dig in and try to find a way to make it happen? And you hit a lot of those barriers pre-op, and a lot of people, would give up or want to walk away. And I think with the right support, we were able to say, we're going to conquer these things.
yeah. And again, very lucky and thankful to have someone like you to kind of have my back and to be so supportive because honestly guys, Kim was my pillar, and I think if she wasn't there, then I would have fell down and just fell apart and I wouldn't have been able to succeed. And I think it's great too that the people that you work with, you connect well with them, right? Because if like you don't connect well with your psychologist, which I'll be honest, I didn't the first time, right? And we need to speak up for ourselves. We need to advocate for ourselves. Now, our nutritionists like Kim or other people will be there to support you the best they can, but you really got to speak up for yourself. So if you're struggling, take that initiative and go speak to your nutritionist, speak to your counselor, speak to the surgeon's office. If you don't feel they're helping you, find outside sources. This is a life changing event that for the most part you can't reverse. So, so, so you really want to be in the right mindset to succeed through the process. The hardest thing, though, for me through this whole process was giving up smoking. And just being a smoker for these years, you know, I had a stressful job and smoking a cigarette was my way to de-stress. And maybe yeah, having those extra 6 months was probably a blessing because I could slowly start cutting back and then end up going cold turkey and just quitting. But I was so committed that I didn't need any um, um, what do they call that? Sensation? Yes. Um, Practices to quit. I just was so motivated. And again, you know, and again, a big kudos to Kim because she was my cheerleader through this whole process and really kept me motivated. So, and you know what? I'm glad I did that because I gotta tell you, I don't know about everybody else's pre-op program, but ours was pretty strict to the point where during my pre-op visit, you know, which was 3 days before the surgery, I had to pee in a cup because they tested you for nicotine. So it was a good thing. I kind of just twisted the negative from this extra 6 months to say, you know what, this is a positive for me. This is some extra time that I can work to quit successfully. So it's out of my system and I can start building better habits. So maybe in a way, it kind of worked out for the best for me.
That's one of the
Um,
harder ones for people, like a habit to quit before surgery. I think the
yeah.
smoking thing, and I know I've smoked before in my past,
Mhm.
and I still could so easily, for whatever reason, I could still easily go back to it. Periodically, when I have a girls' night out, I'll buy a pack of cigarettes, and then I'll be like, okay, once this pack's gone, I'm done. But it's not the best thing for me. But I
No, yeah.
it's such a strong habit. It's so
It
if you can quit completely and stay
yeah,
off of that, and you know, surgery kind of gives you a reason. So I feel like it's
us, yeah.
definitely a reason when you see, like for me, like just seeing what people went through who did smoke post-op
Mhm.
consecutively, like your risk for ulcers is so
Yeah.
much higher. And that's why they want you to quit, guys. It's not just and plus healing processes, but risk for ulcers is very high for those who smoke. So that's the reason. Oh, there we go,
So
Rick. It's hard to see you
I
in a different phase
I
here. I got a little
I
lag.
know. It's like I don't even recognize this person anymore, right? And so like this was my day of surgery. And so I had these pre-op decisions, right? Which type of surgery was I going to get? Was I going to do the sleeve or was I going to do gastric bypass? So I remember when Dr. Romanelli, my surgeon, had first met with me, and he said, I can tell just by looking at you that you would do great with either of these surgeries. And then he started explaining to me the differences between the two, the pros and the cons and all that stuff. And I remember two things that sold my decision. Ultimately, I chose gastric bypass, and this is why because I would lose more weight with gastric bypass and or have a better chance of losing the most weight with that procedure over the sleeve. And the second thing that he said that really made me stop was that if something bad ever happens in life, health wise, the gastric bypass is reversible. The sleeve is not. Because the sleeve, they actually take out a section of your stomach and it gets tossed away, right? With me, my stomach's just floating around in here somewhere. And so worst, and I hope I never have to, but worst case, if something ever happens in life, they're able to reverse that decision. And I think that alone was the big reason that made me gravitate more towards the gastric bypass. Well, that and I was really big in getting robotic surgery done and they only did the robotic with the gastric bypass and the big reason why I wanted robotic surgery was because all the research I did the healing seemed to be much quicker with from the robotic surgery versus other surgery. So we're at my first few months, right? I had the surgery. We're in this honeymoon period. For me, it lasted about 2 years. Oh, wait. Well, sorry. I'm kind of confusing slides here. Let me back up a little bit. Now we're at the post surgery. Um, I guess we're still in that honeymoon period, though. At least it's starting. The first few months were very interesting. Initially, I was afraid to eat anything, thinking it would tear stitches or whatever was rotor-rooted inside of me. And I also was very anxious about the very small amount of food that I was initially eating, because initially I could only eat maybe, geez, I don't know, 150 calories to 300 calories per day. And that was for maybe a month or two. And I just was full. I think maybe I was also afraid of getting dumping syndrome because I've always heard so many negative things about that. And who wants to be, like throwing up all the time and feeling sick all the time? It's just nobody wants to go through that. So I purposefully avoided anything that had a lot of sugar in it, and that includes fruit. Not really a great decision. For myself, it wasn't a horrible decision, but there are always healthier choices. So I would just say that if anyone's in that first post-op stage and you're really concerned right now that you feel you're not eating enough calories, let me tell you, that's going to be increasing in a few months. So just enjoy it now, and try to maybe focus your attention more on being mindful about what's going on and what you can do to improve everything. It's not always about food, although I know it tends to gravitate that way. But for me, it was also important that I uh, uh, considered exercising. Right, it's something that I never really did before, and I just feel that it's just something I've always wanted to do. And I kind of knew that I needed to exercise for this program to be successful, just from people that I've spoken with before in the past. Um, there were just way too many roller coaster thoughts that were going through my mind. I had 1 full year to prepare myself. And ultimately, I still wasn't prepared. But before I could find myself, I needed to accept everything that happened. I remember one thing that happened with me the first month too, is I was eating these mushrooms, these whole mushrooms, and what I did that I shouldn't have done was I was at my desk at work and I was eating it and I fell into a bad habit, right? Where I'm scarfing down food and scarfing down food. And what happened? I actually ate a whole mushroom without chewing it. So I got to tell you, having just been out of surgery for, gosh, I want to say maybe 3, 4 weeks, I went back to the hospital very quickly because I couldn't drink water. I couldn't eat anything for about a day. And that's scary. And what had happened was because I didn't chew it, it got stuck in the little duct. And eventually the food will find its way out. If it doesn't, they did tell me they would have had to go in and do surgery to pull it out. But luckily it did find its way out. It just took a couple days for that to happen. So I spent a couple nights in the hospital trying to basically pass out a mushroom, or at least being able to digest a mushroom. And slowly but surely, I was able to take little sips of water and it ended up passing through. But that's why being mindful is really important through this process too. And believe me, when they tell you to masticate that food, they ain't joking. You need to masticate that food. Right now, okay, am I perfect at doing that? Absolutely not, right? And I think anyone that tells you they are is not being maybe fully honest, because we're all going to slip up once in a while. I think we do our best, but we will occasionally slip up. That's okay. Um, I think I had to learn again, just be mindful, be organized, and have some good time management skills. And so not being able to eat while I'm working, not eating while watching TV, maybe, because what happens is I'm focusing on that. I'm not focusing on eating. So that's one thing that really helped me, was to be a little more organized, and just have a little more time management. Another quirky thing that happened to me was that my taste buds changed. And one of my favorite flavors pre-op was orange. I love orange. And, I'm drinking orange water now. But for some reason, that first year, oh, anytime I tasted anything orange, any orange flavoring or orange juice or an actual orange itself, it would nauseate me. It was so disgusting. It tasted like I was licking sandpaper, or it's just something horrible. It tasted metallic. It tasted bitter. It was just really disgusting. And that was really upsetting to me, right? Because it was one of my favorite things. Another thing I couldn't do was eat eggs. It took me about 2 years before I could actually eat any type of egg. And I mean scrambled, over easy, hard boils, soft, whatever. It just would not process with me. I just couldn't eat it. And it just ended up coming back up. I think why I want to mention that was because, especially for people that are new in the process, is that one, of course, it's different for everybody. It's never the same. And two, I think with me, the experience of eating was a lot of trial by error. Just trying things out, seeing if I can do this, if I could do this. I have an aunt who went through gastric bypass. To this day, she can't eat any pork chop. She can do ham, but she can't do pork chops. So I thought that's kind of interesting. So it really does affect all of us differently. I don't know, Brenda, did you have any issues like that too when you went through yours?
Taste wise, yes, it was
Yeah.
interesting. One of my very favorite things is coffee. Got it right here. Oh, I love coffee. I could drink it all day long. I usually drink either decaf or half calf just because I like drinking coffee so much. It's not about the caffeine, it's more about the taste. But for that very first year after surgery, there was times like I could not stomach the taste of it. And I was just like, oh, I got to get past this because it's one of my favorite things. So yeah, I get to somebody else. Kendra says coffee is my vice. So I mean,
And
I
hey,
don't know
and
what it
I
is.
drink coffee. I don't care. It's just we can give up what we want to give up, but I'm not giving that up. And so I do have my cup of coffee in the morning. Okay, I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning, but I have my coffee in the morning, and that definitely helps me get through the day. And I'm not feeling like I'm sacrificing everything. If you sacrifice everything again, that's when things start falling apart. Um, one of the best things that happened to me, and I do feel like I was spoiled with this, is that I remember waking up from day one on surgery, and I didn't crave sweets anymore. It just was the funniest thing. I didn't crave chocolate. I didn't crave candy. I didn't crave ice cream. Ice cream was a downfall for me. Chocolate was a downfall for me. Cho- cho- Chocolate was so bad that I chased you down the street for a Snickers bar. Now it's like I just it's there, but I don't need it. I don't want it. I wasn't desiring it at the time. So for my first 2 years, actually, I didn't crave any sweets. And I think that was a gift, probably for putting up for the year of the pre-op. But it was a gift because it certainly helped with the rapid weight loss that we get through this process too. So we're in this honeymoon period, right? Or at least for me, for a couple years, I have this abundance of energy. There's some quirks to think of, though. I think the financial costs of some things I had to continuously reevaluate. I think I was changing my clothes like, oh geez, at least once a week, if not twice a week. I mean, the weight was going that fast. And it's kind of fun to buy new clothes, right? Because it was one of the first times in years that I've been able to fit in designer clothing. So I took advantage of that. And and it made me feel good. And What happened then? Motivation comes up. So I just continue to spin that and it keeps going more and more and more. And feeling successful, looking successful. And let's talk about the looks too. I know I'm going to jump around on these bullets here, but when we talk about like getting invitations, um, appearances, um, being recognized more. I swear there is a stereotype out there with being overweight. And I see it more now, having gone through that in the HR world than anything, especially through the interviewing process. It was I think you're more respected when you look healthier, act healthier, and appear to be healthier versus when you're overweight and maybe look a little sickly. And there's some logic behind that when it comes to employment and recruiting. And the big reason is for benefits and health insurance, right? Because the cost of health insurance is raising exponentially every single year, and certainly has not gotten any better since um, uh, now we're in the endemic. But when people utilize health insurance a lot, what they don't always understand is that actually increases the rates for the following year the more times it's used. So if you're in the hospital or you go to the ER and you get surgeries and you get this procedure and that procedure done and like all of these other things, when you have 100 employees, that all adds up. And when the cost gets too high that the insurance company has had to pay out, well, they're going to get that money back somehow. So what do? They end up raising the rates each year. So that's why our rates with our health insurance tends to go up every single year. Sometimes it'll stay the same. Most of the time, you're going to have some type of increase. Um, then, of course, there was financial cost to the activities I did. I was so motivated to start this right, to do this right. So I ended up getting a physical trainer to the point where I was working out 5 days a week. I mean, I was the fittest that I've ever been. I was running 3 to 5 miles a day. I was working out in the gym 5 days a week, so sometimes even 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day. I was just so obsessed with not wanting to gain this weight back or being a statistic or being just unhealthy again that I just wanted to move forward and enjoy life. And what's funny is as the weight was flying off and this energy just kept increasing, I don't know about you guys, but it just felt like all these new doors were opening up to me, all these things I could never do before that I could do. Like, I remember one summer I walked the AT or the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania. And now I didn't finish the Appalachian Trail because I came upon a copperhead and I said, yeah, enough for me. I'm good. But just to be able to do that, nothing I'd ever be able to do before, like actually um, doing rock scrambles that are huge, the size of cars. It was just a lot of fun to have the energy and the strength and the conditioning to be able to do that. Going ziplining, doing something like sitting in a booth at a restaurant, traveling, actually being able to sit in economy coach and not having to be embarrassed. These were new, exciting things. So because I'm able to travel, I traveled and definitely took advantage. I also found that I was being invited out to a lot more parties, a lot more events. People engaged me more. People felt more comfortable around me. Um, the honeymoon period is clearly what it's called. It is a honeymoon period where everything is just like proactive and positive. I think the top surprises through the whole process, though, for me, is the body morphing. And I think of like Slimer here, who's kind of all over the place with his looks, or like if you think about the movie The Blob. I don't know about you guys, but when I lost the weight, the last thing I wanted to do was stare at myself naked in a full-length mirror because just the loose skin. I mean, it literally looked like my body was melting, right? And yeah, I had some options, that I could have done skin removal surgeries and see a plastic surgeon. And, the big reason why I decided not to do that, because each of us has to decide what's important to us. But the big reason I'm not doing it is that one, it's like I'm 51, so it's like not that that's super old, but it's like who do I gotta press anymore? I'm like in a relationship with the same person for over 20 years. I'm not dating anyone. I'm not like going to I don't plan on wearing a bikini at the beach or a thong at the beach or whatever to show off a ripped body or something like that. And yeah, I mean, maybe if I was 20 or like in my 30s or something, I may consider something like that, but it just wasn't important to me. And the second thing, everybody, and I mean every single person I've spoken to that has gotten skin removal surgery has told me it is the most painful recovery you will ever go through your life. Yes, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm just kind of I'm pain isn't my thing. I just would prefer to avoid it. I'm not interested in it. So it just wasn't important to me. Another top surprise, and I guess I kind of assumed it would happen. I was kind of hoping it would happen. Is those cravings I told you that I lost, for those 2 years, those chocolate cravings start to come back, and I was like, oh God, what's going on here now? I felt so wonderful, and now all these cravings are coming back. So just thinking, if I'm thinking workplace improvement, there's always that continuous improvement. We have to reevaluate everything and reassess everything. And when something's not working out, don't just let it continue. Don't just continue the same thing and have it not working out, because that's actually the definition of insanity, right? When you do the same thing over and over and over again and you're expecting a different outcome. No. So just reinvest your energy and reorganize your thoughts to actually develop plans and to just reevaluate everything. My taste buds return to normal, so I get to drink oranges or the orange flavoring again. That's great. um Energy level was still the same, so that's great. And of course, the the society acceptance. People are attracted to, it's that rule of attraction. It's sad, but it's a reality. And I think most of us that have been through this process can be honest and have experienced that too.
Don't you think though too, just to kind of stop you there for a second, Rick, I think sometimes the more we accept ourselves, we kind of like emanate that,
Mm,
and it's easier
mm, yeah.
to it's easier for other people to accept us whenever we accept ourselves, and the more that we become in love with the person we're becoming. And it's not just about the weight, it's because
Mm.
I've even seen people who emanate that same aura, that same experience, but it's kind of like the change that you're going through, that transformation, you feel like kind of like a butterfly, and you're new, and I feel like that's part of what other people are experiencing because you experience that. So I think it's kind of a little bit of both.
I would absolutely agree with you. I would also say that uh wow, just had a squirrel moment there and lost my train of thought. um that uh sorry, I
The
totally forgot.
transformation. Were you gonna
It
talk
is
about the
transformational.
transformation?
It is a transformational experience, yes. And uh, certainly avoiding these pitfalls and everything like I have here are nice ways to just like help you stay on track. What are some of the common pitfalls that I do? I'm trying to be mindful at times, so if I'm talking fast here, it's because of that. But dumping syndrome. I just try to avoid it as much as possible, and then I learned you can't avoid it, because eating, at least with gastric bypass, it is trial by error. And forget the sugars. There was regular food that I just had trouble processing, and I ended up getting dumping syndrome. And as I understand, dumping syndrome is different for everybody. For me, I felt sick for about 2 hours to the point where I actually had to go home and go to sleep. So I'm very mindful about avoiding this, which I think is helpful. So maybe getting it one or two times is kind of good because if you have a bad experience from that, you're probably not going to want to repeat that. Um, oops. Imposter syndrome. I know I've done a presentation about this, but this is that vampire, right? That's going to come there and they're just going to suck the energy of you. This is the most important thing for me to consider about anything. If it's at work, an activity at home, or something like this. It's just that imposter syndrome, somebody that's actually ridiculing you, blaming you. For me personally, it's when I had colleagues at work say, well, how'd you lose your weight so good? And so I would tell them the process. I'm being honest, and they said, well, you cheated. No, sorry, I did not. No. So partly I would educate them, but initially, and the first time that happened, I remember not feeling great about myself and thinking to myself, God, am I really pathetic or am I just a failure? And then I said, no, whoa, 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 wait a minute. And then I went back to my done list, right, of everything that I've achieved and completed. I have done more on that done list than people have done in diets and that without going through this process. So in a lot of ways, I'm more successful in my eyes. Now, it may not be true in your eyes, but in my eyes, that's what's important to me. And so I would just ask you to self-reflect on that and stay away from those toxic people, that toxic energy. Otherwise, like this vampire, they're going to suck the life out of you. And if that happens, it's probably going to demotivate you and you're going to start falling apart. Avoid getting wrapped up with obsessions. For me, it was that working out. I had to work out every single day, sometimes twice a day. And what tends to happen with that? I ended up getting injured a lot. And then when you're injured, you can't work out for 2 or 3 days after that. So it's like this vicious cycle and circle that just kept happening. My God, there's this awesome story though that I have to tell you. And it was during a workout. I had worked out twice this day. And the second time I just had drank enough water before the workout and I ended up getting dehydrated. I didn't realize it though until I was driving home. When I'm on the highway coming back from the gym, every muscle in my body locked up while I'm on the highway going like 60, 65 miles per hour. And it took every bit of energy for me to pull off the exit and pull into a gas station. I couldn't even call 911. My mouth was locked up. I couldn't speak. I'm like talking on the phone, like, yeah, I actually thought I was having a stroke, to be perfectly honest. And after about 10 minutes of in that intense fear, I was able to press 911. But even then I was slurring my speech and it was a horrifying experience. But it's that obsession that led to this horrible situation. Forget about my own life. I could have killed somebody else on the road. So these are just horrible things that can happen through this process and very, very scary too. Um, Finally, one of the biggest surprises that happened to me was actually last year, and I'm still working through this too. So I'm not perfect. Like we all have our issues. In 2023, I had to go through 3 surgeries, and one of them actually had complications. I could not work out for over 13 months because of recovery from these surgeries. So I was devastated. I was never more fit in my life. And I was working out 5 days a week and all this, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I thought my world was lost. I mean, I was in tears. I I I I I I actually felt weaker. Um, just started being able to get back to the gym this year, in the beginning of this year. And of course, thinking that I could pick up where I left off. Well, but was that unrealistic? Because you have to maintain that and keep going and all that. Because if you stop, your stamina starts to decrease, and your energy starts to decrease. So I really had to reach deep, do a deep dive and find that personal motivation, and ultimately just get back on track. That was really, really important. I just had to get back on track. And then once you do that, finally that light's at the end of the tunnel in that forest, and I'm back to losing the weight that I gained during the year of that I'm calling the year of surgeries, and I feel healthier again. I feel like I'm remotivated, and it just feels like I'm back on track and getting back to the success that I was. So I know I kind of breached through those last ones really, really quick, but does anyone have any questions that they want to ask? Or Brenda, do you have any questions or comments? Or if anyone wants to share a story, or I should probably turn the mic over to you, right? So let me stop
You're actually
sharing.
it was great. I love the pictures that you picked out. Some of them were quite interesting. The one with dumping syndrome, there was quite a few comments on that one. People really
Yeah.
um
Wow, look at all the comments here. See, I did not get to see these while I was doing the presentation. That's great though.
yeah, you'll have to
Um,
read through them. There's a lot of comments, but
yeah,
um I feel like I feel like people can relate to what you're saying. I mean, all those different parts of our journey, from being pre-op and preparing and going through all the steps and thinking it's so overwhelming to early post-op and the scariness of introducing new foods. And then when you get to the honeymoon, well, that's part of the honeymoon, but the honeymoon of when you really start feeling like all these wonderful benefits and like really jumping in to have the most success. And then life kind of happens like with your last year of having some little challenges and things along the way and finding ways to get through that. And, I know one of our other people here on the call, Helena, says that she's been diagnosed with POTS, which is kind of a something that kind of relates to what you were saying, like you have symptoms of dehydration and things like that. And she also is going to be being tested next week for marginal ulcers. So, you just don't know. The thing is when the thing is you just go through the steps and you hope for all the best and you try to do your best. And, regardless of whether you have bariatric surgery or you don't,
mhm.
there's always going to be different challenges in life, and it's how we deal with those challenges, how we react to them, and what we decide to do next. I mean, it's not necessarily about giving up. It's about getting the support you need, the help you need to make it through those steps. It's about
Learning to build that
continuously.
resilience, and
Yes.
yes, and like all of that's super, super great. Yeah.
And Veronica's asking, so you recommend journaling to help keep mindset going or changing something?
I do. I do. So like, and like in full transparency, I don't journal every single day. And I'm certainly not journaling pages and pages of information. Some days I may do one sentence, to be honest, or some days I think I remember even doing one word. Just trying to just trying to do it all the time has been very helpful. Um, One of the strengths or a strength to develop is self-reflection. It's like absolutely huge. Learning from our, what's working, what doesn't work. And when we self-reflect, we're able to understand and we're able to change. So that's why journaling has been so beneficial to me. And it's a great stress reliever too. If you're having a really, really bad day and you need to vent, but you don't want to go complain to somebody else, complain to a piece of paper on a book.
No, I agree with you. I think probably one of the biggest things in my life to help me change something has been journaling. And I think I didn't realize how important it was. So, I mean, I use it
Yeah.
all the time. I keep a notebook, and sometimes it's just like usually what I do is usually whenever I'm like working through something like a challenge of some sort. And
Mhm.
so by me writing it down, it helps me become clearer. And then I just ask for guidance regarding that. And it's almost like the answers just start coming. You can kind of work your way through it. That's how I use journaling the most. But there's so many different ways. You can use it as a gratitude, like writing things down you're thankful for.
Mhm.
You can use it as a way to prepare for the day. I call it segment intending. You intend little parts of your day so
Oh,
that
I
you
like
can
that.
prepare for it. I also use journaling a lot for intentional work. Like if I want to get really intentional about certain things in my health, my career, my finances, I journal about all of that because the more clear you are, that's where your focus goes, and then that's where your intention goes. So I journal about hundreds of different things. So it doesn't have to be just one thing, like, but it helps you
Right.
kind of like put it when you put it from your mind onto paper, it makes it
Mhm.
more concrete and it makes it easier for you to kind of work through or work towards.
Yeah, the one other thing that I would add with the journaling too, and is like recording what you're eating, like recording your food, because I think initially I would, the days that I would cheat or I would overeat or maybe I would eat something I shouldn't have or something like that, I'd avoid putting it in the journal or something like that, or and I think that's when I realized that I'm not doing any. I'm not doing myself any favor by lying to myself. So that's where I get to that own my truth. And now, because I still record my food, and if days I go over my allotted calories, I still do that. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm forgiving myself, but I'm being honest with myself. And it helps me stay motivated to kind of stay on track the upcoming days, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes, for sure. I always think for me, whenever I am feeling out of control with my eating, for whatever reason, that is a super great way for me to find that I'm coming back to mindfulness, like to know what I'm eating, knowing where my calories are going, knowing what I'm doing, knowing what I can change. Um, and also, I kind of think too, like some people are just like really good, big on the macros and things like that. It's a great way to track that. I also think it's a great way to track progress. Like
Yeah.
if you're wanting to track, for me, that's been really important this last year. I kind of like have been just kind of like really getting back on track and sorry about the background noise. I was pasting your information into Facebook and it was giving me background noise. Um, but for me, it's the journaling too is about that, like journaling where I'm at right now so I can see where I'm going and see if progress that I've made. Maybe it's with my weight, with my measurements, with pictures, with different things. And I do have we're going to jump ahead because I got two questions and we're going to kind of I hope it's okay, Rick. We'll take them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then one of them is what specific action can a person take to switch the mindset from motivation to determination?
To determination. Um,
Because you were talking about it's not so much, you were talking about actionable things. Like,
mhm.
because that kind of, I feel like that kind of pushes things into overdrive because sometimes you may not be motivated. So,
So I think, well, I mean, I think it's going to be different for each person. I think for me, I just eventually got to a point where I'm like, enough is enough. And I became determined to successfully complete this program, stay on track. I think, though, that determination and motivation, though, are interdependent. I think they relate. I think they complement each other. I think you can't have. I I actually believe that you can't have one without the other. So in like a lot of ways, they're married behaviors, right? You can't get motivated unless you're determined to complete a task. And then that's when you'll get the motivation to continue on. So it's almost like a full circle that's happening. And so I hope that answered your question, but that's my perception of that. What would you
another
say,
thing
Brenda?
too, I think you can't have motivation unless you have a will or desire to change.
Yes.
So, like, even though we don't like having challenges necessarily, it creates the desire for us to want more. So you can't have unless you never have a challenge or you never have anything that seems like some kind of obstacle or you never have anything that pushes you to grow, you wouldn't have motivation. You
No,
you need a
but
little
like right, but
desire.
like no. And like I'm sorry for interrupting you, but it's like I like actually believe that determination is willpower, right? Because why are you determined to get this done? Like what's the driving force that's helping you get this done? That's what determines you to move forward. That's what determines you to be successful. That's what determines you to step on that scale every week, even though you really don't want to. I think I like absolutely love your explanation of it, Brent. I think you nailed it on the head.
It's kind of
Um,
like people always call it their why, it's like
yes,
you have to
yes,
have a reason. Like, why would you want to do anything? Yeah, your driving force. Like, what is your driving force? And some people will say, it's because I want to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight?
right.
Maybe you say, well, I want to be able to do things with my kids. But
Mm,
why do you want to do things with your kids? Well, I want to be able to share moments with them that are more fun and that I have more energy. Well, why would you want to do that? Like if you
mhm.
keep drilling down, well, maybe it's just because I want to exchange of love. I want them to love me and I want to love myself. There you go. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to drill.
Yes, and who is this? Jessica Morris. She had said, "Yes, I've heard of that. Asking five whys." So what this is called root cause analysis, and it's used in the business world a lot. And it's called the five whys. And what you do is, like Brenda just gave, like she just demonstrated. You ask yourself a question, why? Then ask yourself another, so okay, so why? Okay, so why? And you keep going on. And the whole idea is to simplify it as much as possible to get to the root cause. What's the real reason why? So thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then there's one more we're going to take here. Additionally, what is the best way you can identify places you need to improve rather than be self-blind? So I'm not sure if she's talking about emotional, physical, mental. Um,
Can you repeat that question one more time?
what is the best way you can identify places
Mhm.
you need to improve
Yeah.
rather than being self-blind?
So there's a great book out there. There's two books that I would recommend, and unfortunately, I may screw up the titles a little bit, so I apologize. The first one's by an author called Robert Karkuff, Carkuff, and he has a book called Possibilities Human, and it actually divides us into three categories for the most part: our physical, emotional, and intellectual strengths and weaknesses. So what we do, like Brenda just had shared, um, uh, um, we can categorize us on like a 1 through 5 scale or something like that on how strong we are, what's our stamina like, how much do we exercise, and we're going to have some kind of measurement with the physical, and then our emotional strength, how stressed are we getting enough sleep, are we, so there's all these different measurements that we have. Oh, I just, sorry, just another squirrel moment, but Kendra just said something about a vision board. Those are amazing. And just another way to motivate us to kind of keep going. But this book is just it's a little technical, so I'll warn everyone, but it does give a model on how to get our what do we call our PEI, or physical, emotional, and intellectual, and it's really the true way of how we can increase our own individual productivity and performance. The other book is by Simon Sinek called Why, or like no, I think it's either Why or Know Your Why. And I read it about a year ago, and it's a really good book, and it just kind of reinforces a little bit of what we've been talking about, and why understanding the why can really help us achieve our desired goals and objectives.
Thank you for sharing those. It looks like somebody typed in the last one. And I want to say too, this is kind of like just kind of getting into this piece too, Rick. I had mentioned that I was going to talk about a couple of events coming up in
Yeah.
the community. One of them is actually an event I'm doing, and it's not a ProCare event. It is actually something I'm doing out on my own, which ProCare is okay with me sharing. It is a 12-week class on kind of getting better at life, and it's 12 weeks starting in January, and it's all on a lot of these little things we've been talking about. So if you're interested in knowing more, I'll paste the link. It is basically, I will share here in just a second. I'll share my screen and share that. And then I have another class that I want to share with you guys too. So let's see here. I'm going to pop on to this. It's basically a 12-week class called Mind, Body, Soul Transformation Practices, and it goes along with the world we know of bariatrics very well. It's things that I've learned over my nursing career. I actually have always been really interested in and in holistic health and in meditation, intuition, a lot of these things that we're talking about. So if you're interested and you feel drawn, check that out. So
Teaching this,
I'll,
Brenda?
what's that?
Are you teaching this?
Yes,
That's
yes.
great.
It's kind of something fun I've wanted to do for a while. I had some people reach out from my community, um, where I live, and that I've taught classes actually on vision boarding in the past,
Wow.
for my community, and then also taught classes on something called energy medicine. So, had two different places, the place I have my fitness at and our yoga studio that's nearby, and then some personal friends say, can you start doing classes on some of these tools and techniques that you've kind of taught in the community before? And I'm like, sure, I'll do that. So 12 weeks, it's all on different kinds of things to kind of like draw in and be the best at lifing. I'm going to call it lifing. The other class I want to kind of come to mind here and talk just a brief moment about, Rick, is one that we were talking about right before you and I popped on. And that is the Bariatric Society has their retreat coming up very soon. So if I pop onto Instagram, it's Bariatric Society. If you go there, you go to their link tree, and it is basically on their link tree, it's this bariatric retreat. When you open the link, it'll give you information, and I think the registration is still open right now. I think they've sold about 225 tickets. It's at Paradise Point in San Diego, and starts next Thursday, the 7th. So I know it's getting close. It's probably kind of hard for people to plan, but I did want to just mention it. I also want to say that I did share Rick's information in the chat box, because if anybody wants to contact him to kind of connect, can do so with Rick. I also put it on Facebook. And then if you're listening to replay, it'll be in the description of this event. Um, Closing note before I want to kind of do a little thank you to our sponsor. But before I do that, Rick, tell us like what would be a closing thought for you?
A closing thought for me is just one. I guess a closing thought would be, if for some reason you don't meet your goals and objectives and you feel like you failed at something, keep in mind that we learn from failing. Failing helps us grow and develop. And if we never fail at anything, we're not living life. I think that's my thought.
I love that, Rick. I actually was listening to a podcast this morning, and they were talking about, or it was actually a Mind Valley class, and they were talking about Google actually has for their employees a little saying or a little quote that they want their employees to fail at least 50% of the time. And if you think about that, it's kind of scary. Like you think, oh, why would I want to set goals for myself that I would fail 50% of the time? But why would you not want to set goals that are unrealistic and are way out there just in the happenstance that maybe they happen 50% of the time? Like the amazing people out there that have created these wonderful worlds, these people that are out there, like Walt Disney, for example. If you don't dream big, you're never going to have anything bigger. So
Right.
create it first in your mind and it will happen. So Thank you, Rick, so much. So
Thank you for
much.
having me, everybody. I really appreciate it. I enjoy and have fun doing this every time. So thank you again for inviting me here.
Thank you. And I'm going to share a little thank you from our sponsors. I'm going to pop on to procarenow.com. And guys, we
So
have
those are
all
awesome,
kinds of,
Brenda.
what's
Though
that, Rick?
these are awesome. Those citrus ones.
Those are my favorite. Are you
Oh
talking
my
about
gosh. Th-
the multivitamins? So if you go under
Yes.
products, multivitamins, and they're the orange citrus
Yes. Because they look
flavored.
horrible, right? And like the first time I saw them, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, these horse pills are going to be choking on them or something like that. They are so easy to swallow and they taste incredible. I have never tasted a vitamin like it in my life.
I'm gonna pop them up. They're orange citrus coated tablets. They're easy slide. Like Rick said, they look a little bit big, but they slide down better for me than even the capsules, which are smaller.
Yep.
Um, but they have such a good flavor and a good smell. They're citrus
Yeah.
grove flavored and smell. So wonderful little thing. Be watching out too, guys. I just want to kind of just say, be watching out. Chocolate is back. A lot of people are big chocolate fans, so check that out if you are a chocolate fan. I also want to say this is a super sneak peek. If you're still here on the call with me tomorrow, we're going to have some bone and joint supplements. We're promoting those on our site, so be watching for that special promotion. And there's going to be some major sales during our Black Friday area. So I can't tell you what those are yet, but just be watching. And thank you everybody for all the wonderful thank yous and kind notes and all of that.
Thank you, everybody. I enjoyed it and had fun. Happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween. Well, thank you. And Rick, I'll touch base with you
Okay.
soon. And
Yes.
everybody enjoy their
Bye.
week.
Okay.
Take care. Bye
Take care.
bye.
Bye bye.